Hey, how's it going? Ben here. Great to see you again. Thanks for tuning in. In this video, we're going to be talking about the re-entry permit for Thailand. So if you're staying in Thailand long term, if you're here for work, if you're here to retire, if you're married and living in the Kingdom of Thailand, and you have a non-immigrant visa or an extension of stay that permits you to stay in the kingdom long term, then you may need to use a re-entry permit. You need the re-entry permit to keep your visa valid if you want to leave the kingdom and then return. So perhaps you want to go away, perhaps you want to go abroad on holiday, or perhaps you need to go abroad for business and you need to return. Now, you probably don't want to go through the process of applying for a whole new visa once again when you could just keep your current visa valid by getting a re-entry permit. So a re-entry permit allows you to leave and come back and still keeps your visa valid. I wanted to make this video because it is something a little bit lesser known. So unless you've lived in Thailand, unless you've worked over here and been here for a while, then maybe you don't really know about the re-entry permit. Maybe you're just hearing about it now and have some questions about what the re-entry permit is, how you get one, how much they cost. And in this video, we're going to go over all of those things. So I hope to shed a little bit of light on something that seems to be a little bit lesser known. So why don't we jump into it and have a look at what the re-entry permit is. So today we are talking about the re-entry permit for visas in the Kingdom of Thailand. Okay, and what exactly a re-entry permit is. So in this search, once again, I found myself on the website thaiembassy.com. This is a great website. I'll leave a link in the description to this website and you can go and read this article yourself. But I thought it was a worthwhile screen grab sharing because there is actually a picture of a re-entry permit on the page. So this is what a re-entry permit looks like. It's kind of a stamp you get in your passport. You can get a single-use re-entry permit or you can get a multiple-use re-entry permit. So that is if you're going to go once away abroad on holiday, then maybe you only need to buy the single. But if you travel a lot, if you have plans to travel a lot, if you're going on a few holidays, or maybe you travel a lot for business, then you probably need the multi-entry re-entry permit. So yeah, that is what the re-entry permit looks like in your passport. Once again, it's like a stamp in your book. Re-entry permits can be applied for in person or by an agent at Thai immigration offices. If an agent is used, a letter of attorney is required. Okay, so yeah, the most common way to get a re-entry permit is to simply go to your local immigration office and apply for one there. It does say on this website that you can have someone go in your place. However, they do need a letter from an attorney. So yeah, you would have to arrange that if you want to send someone else with your passport to go and get the re-entry permit for you or on your behalf. The re-entry permit does not prolong your visa or permit of stay. It is just a permit to be able to return to Thailand and use the remaining days of your permit stay or extension of stay. So what that means is if you have a year-long visa, maybe you have 3 months left on that visa, but you go away for 1 month and you use your re-entry permit and you come back, it doesn't mean you have 3 months left on your visa. The time continues to pass on your visa. It just means you can come back in successfully and remain on that same visa. So it's not going to add any extra time. You don't get a sort of pause in your Thai visa while you're abroad and then come back. So it doesn't extend your visa or extension of stay. It's just simply a way to leave Thailand and come back. And here is the link to that website. So all that information was from the thaiembassy.com, your gateway to Thailand. Like I mentioned before, I will leave a link in the description to that article so you can check it out yourself. It was a pretty good write-up on the details of what a re-entry permit is. So if you are living in Thailand and you have plans to leave, you have holiday plans or business plans abroad, then the first thing you'll need to know is where to get your re-entry permit. And you can apply for a re-entry permit at a local immigration or international airport. So yeah, like I mentioned, the most common way, the only place I've ever applied for a re-entry permit is at my local immigration office. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple to do. But you can also do it at the international airport. So the big international airports in Bangkok, so that's Suvarnabhumi and Don Mueang. You can apply for a re-entry permit there if you wish to. But yeah, bear in mind that would mean you would have to get to the airport a bit earlier probably. And then I wouldn't like to leave it that late because you do need a re-entry permit. It is pretty important if you're on a long-term visa. So I've always liked to go to immigration sort of a few weeks in advance before I need to travel. However, if you can't do that, then you can also get them at the airport, but To me, that seems a little bit last minute, but I know lots of people do that, and it apparently is much more straightforward. Probably you don't need to make that extra trip to immigration, so I guess it's up to you, personal preference and all that. Let's have a look at the two different routes to getting a re-entry permit. Okay, so the first one is at your local immigration office. So once again, this is the picture I use a lot on this channel, and this is just when I'm talking about local immigration offices. This is a screen grab I took off Google Maps, and it is the Koh Samui immigration office. So you could go here, or you could go to your local immigration office and get your re-entry permit there. Now, if you're going to immigration to get a re-entry permit, you will need a few things. You will need to do a few things. So first, you need a completed TM8 form. So this is the application form for the re-entry permit, officially known as the TM8. You can get these online. So I did find some online, so I can actually show you this form. This is one I found online. That's what it kind of looks like. So obviously you would have to fill this form in before you could apply for your re-entry stamp. So yeah, once again, you can find these forms online. However, they will also have them at your immigration office. And it may, in fact, be much better to wait till you get to immigration to pick up the form and fill it out there, just because I don't know if these are up to date, if these are, you know, correct or the current forms. However, I found one online just to show you kind of what it looks like. So this is your standard TM8 form. So you'd have to fill in all the information. It's pretty standard information that they need to know. Now, there is something of note at the bottom of this form, and this is the next thing you will need. So there's an area here for a 4x6 centimeter photograph. So that's similar, I think, although I could be incorrect, I think that's basically a passport photo. So you know the standard passport photo size. You will need one of those small coloured current recent photographs of yourself, kind of passport photo style but in colour. And you will need that while you're applying for your re-entry permit, because you need to attach it to the TM8 form when applying for the re-entry permit. Okay, so that's something to bear in mind. You will need one of these small photos, and you can see it here on the form in the bottom left. I've put a little red arrow pointing to it to point it out to you, because yeah, that is something you need to bear in mind, especially if you're going to be doing it at the airport. You don't want to forget that, because you may need to be catching your flight that day. So yeah, don't forget, you probably need I think you do definitely need a small sort of passport style photograph of yourself when applying for the re-entry permit. Alright, so just to go back to that list of things you need, so you need the completed TM8 form, the re-entry permit application form. As we just mentioned, as we spoke about, you need a recent coloured photo. So like I said, I think it's the passport photo. It's a 4x6 centimeters, it said on the form. You need one of those, so you need a coloured recent photograph of yourself, passport style. And you also need photocopy of passport pages. Okay, so you need photocopies of passport pages. You need the photo page and the most recent stamps. Unless I'm mistaken, what you need is the sort of front page of your passport. So you know, the page with your picture and all your personal information, where it's written on underneath, your name, date of birth, all that good stuff. So you need that part photocopied, and you'll need a copy of that to take with you while you're applying for the re-entry permit. You'll also need your most recent visa, and if you have an extension of stay on top of that. So it's probably the most recent stamps in your passport. So if you've been living in Thailand, you'll have your visa, perhaps you'll have your extension of stay. You need a copy of those pages as well. So just to recap, you need a completed TM8 form, the recent coloured photo and photocopy of passport pages. And that's the photo page with your current information and the most recent stamps in your passport when applying for the re-entry permit. And you'll need these at both places. So you'll need these if you're going to the immigration office, you'll need these documents. And if you're going to the airport, I believe it's the exact same, you'll need these documents. So this is what you need when you're applying for the re-entry permit at either place. So you could do it at the immigration office, you can do it at the airport. So you will need these documents at both. So I know we are talking about the immigration office right now, but also if you go to an international airport, so that would probably be Suvarnabhumi or Don Muang if you're in Thailand, then you will need those documents as well. Just a few things about applying at an international airport. So yeah, I found this online. This is a pretty good infographic. It was actually recently posted on one of the Thai news pages I follow on Facebook, and I thought it was pretty useful, pretty relevant to this video, so I got a grab of it. So it's the re-entry permit into the Kingdom of Thailand, and it says at departure, immigration, Savannah Boom Airport. So notices, just a couple of things. So application must be made in person if you're doing it at the airport. So I guess you can't send an agent like you could. You could get permission if you had a letter from an attorney. You could like apply to have someone go on your behalf if you're doing it at an immigration office. However, they're saying here that if you're doing it at Savannah Boom at least, and I imagine it's the same for Don Muang, then you need to do it in person, which you probably would be doing if you're getting a flight later anyway. So not that much of a bigger deal, but it is a little bit of a difference. It says re-entry service is at Passport Control Zone 2 on the 4th floor of Savannah Boom Airport. So yeah, that's something you would have to find, but yeah, it probably wouldn't be too tricky for you if you know where you're going. I'm sure if you ask someone, they'll be able to point you in the right direction as well. Yeah, but it is. I would find this way more stressful doing it at the airport than going to the immigration office personally. Also, this is only for passengers who departed Thailand, so it's when you're leaving Thailand and want to come back. And it does say that they are open 24 hours, so that is good. So if they are open 24 hours, which I assume they are, if they say they are, then you probably wouldn't have any issues whatsoever getting your re-entry permit at the airport. I do know plenty of people who do this. Anyone I've spoken to about getting a re-entry permit, often they'll just do it at the airport. They find that much more convenient, and I guess it is. Like I said, I just prefer to do it a little bit in advance and make sure I've had everything ready way before I'm going to travel. That's just my sort of OCD, I guess. So when it comes to application requirements, yeah, so it says you need the application form, the TM8, and a photograph 4 by 6 centimeters. So yeah, the same application requirements for getting the re-entry permit at the airport as you would be doing if you went to an immigration office. It's the same thing. All right, and finally, the cost of the re-entry permit. Now, you may have seen it. It was on that previous slide. They did have the cost listed there. What I found online were people saying that the single entry is 1,000 Thai baht, multiple entry is 3,800 Thai baht. However, I did see it a lot on a few different websites that they were saying, as I've written at the bottom, the fees at the airport may be higher than the fees at a local immigration office. Now, if we go back to that previous slide, you can see that the single entry fee is 1,000 baht and the multiple re-entry is 3,800 baht. So it doesn't seem to be the case that it's more expensive at the airport. However, maybe it will be because a few people did know that online. So I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, some people are saying online that it can be a little bit more expensive at the airport sometimes, but who knows, because it doesn't seem to be, especially if they're putting out these information kind of packages, you would expect these to be correct. So yeah, I don't know. I imagine it's the same price. However, I did see it online. A few people in a few places were saying that it may be more expensive at the airports. So yeah, 1,000 baht for a single entry and 3,800 Thai baht for a multiple entry. So you would get the single re-entry permit if you only plan to go abroad once on your current visa. So on the length of your current visa, say your visa lasts 1 year, then you would only get the single re-entry permit if you only plan to go abroad once. So you only need to use it once. You only need a one-time re-entry permit. However, if you plan to go lots of times, so we would say, what, more than 3 times? If you're planning to go 4 times, then it works out cost effective to get the multiple entry. However, that is quite a lot actually. I didn't realize it was that much. Yeah, so the difference, you would need to go 4 times of single re-entries permits before it would be more cost effective to get the multiple re-entry. So yeah, I guess unless you're a traveler or you have a business abroad, then maybe you don't need the multiple entry. I will say this though, it does take up less room in your passport. If you get a single re-entry, if you had to get multiple single re-entries, then you would have to use up a few pages in your passport. At least a single. Multiple entry would only use up 1, but that's a very small picky thing to sort of be pointing out. All right, well that does conclude this video. This was just a quick video talking about the re-entry permit. I thought you may find it useful if you're new to Thailand or if you're planning to move to Thailand and have some questions about the details of your visa. And this is what would happen or what you need to do if you plan to go abroad whilst on a long-term visa here in the Kingdom of Thailand. If you enjoyed this video, if you found it useful, then please consider hitting the like button. I greatly appreciate that. Consider subscribing also if you live in Thailand or you plan to move to Thailand, because I do make quite a lot of videos on this channel about just that. If you have any questions, then leave them in the comment section. I'll do my best to answer them if I can. And as always, I greatly appreciate you watching this video, especially if you made it all the way to the end, and I'll hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.